Warning, this is an advisement that this story does have sexual content that I will be reading and is not meant for children. Thank you. I awoke in the Louisiana swamp, looking up at the moon. Why was I in Louisiana? I now knew. I came to kill Matthew Remy, the father of my wife's second child. He was a car salesman from New Orleans. She met him on Facebook, talking about cars, movies, and their neglectful spouses, and then they fucked. That was all I knew from living halfway across the country. Was she still pregnant? Leo, are you there? As I stood up, I could tell I was in a different place from where my body had been dumped. The ground was solid, the sky open and bright. I picked a direction that seemed to go towards the main road, or any road. This area was getting darker, the trees pulling closer together. For a moment, I was regretting my choice of direction. I looked up at the sky. The light shined through the foliage in a very distinct shape. S-L-O-T-H. Written in cursive. Sloth? Really? I pulled myself to my feet. Yes, I was aware that giving in to sloth would kill me. No matter how difficult, I needed to walk. My legs were strong enough to hold my weight, but standing up felt like my lungs were on fire. I blinked my eyes. I could feel the blood rushing to my limbs. It all felt too heavy. I continued to crawl my way to the light, a multicolored light. A cop? No, there was too much light. But not sunlight. It took me a moment to realize what I was seeing. Reflective metal, music piped in on cheap speakers, and lots of colorful light. Oh fuck. This was a carnival. I didn't want to die, but I also did not want to scare an innocent child. Too late, chuckled Jamie's voice. I blinked once, then twice. Jamie was teleporting around the fairgrounds, his long hair whipping in the wind as he blipped in and out of reality with his youthful smile and his free-spirited, mystical appearance. I imagined he was attracting the attention of a small army of children. He disappeared out of my line of sight, but in a matter of moments, he had a trail of 6 curious little ones, all high on sugar in the excitement of the carnival. It was almost too easy for Jamie to lead them, just close enough for one to see me. My heart was racing as blood tricked out of my mouth. I knew I needed to stay low. Somehow, I had to try to look like a victim, not a monster. I avoided eye contact with the children, glancing just long enough to see general features. A little girl with messy brown hair came close. Her clothes were dirty, her skin was a soft shade of tan. She looked at me, tilting her head like an owl. Hello? Although already small, she got on her knees, looking me in the eyes. Her eyes were a familiar shade of emerald green, so it came as no surprise when she poked me in my injured eye. After a moment, she started to laugh. Hey, Scout, she shouted in an adorably innocent voice. I found a dead body. An older girl joined her. She was taller, but with her tomboyish appearance, I would guess she was no older than 9 or 10. Jade, I don't think he's dead. She quickly scooped up the smaller girl. It didn't take long for the police to find me. They seemed unconcerned with the words homeless and junkie being peppered throughout their dialogue. After a short drive, I was booked and taken to a waiting room while I waited for medical care. The arresting officer unlocked my handcuffs, allowing me the first view of her face. Can I get you anything, sweetheart? She asked in a gentle voice. I wanted water for my parched throat. I wanted to go to a hospital and get an IV full of pain meds. I wanted to see my daughter, but in that moment, all I wanted was to not be alone. No, thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, she said with a laugh. The woman was about my age, with kind, motherly eyes. Awful proper for a drifter. Can you tell me your name? Adam, I replied quickly, anxiously trying to hold back my emotions. She wrote it down on a clipboard. Last name? I shrugged. I was too tired to spell out my unpronounceable last name. Okay, well, we're going to get you to a hospital, but first I'm going to get your fingerprints and see if we can find you a last name. Great. I was taken to the nearest public hospital, where I was given an IV. I tried to remain still, but with my lack of water, my veins were playing the worst game of hide and seek. Eventually, the decision was made for a PICC line, sending much-needed fluids and medication directly into my neck. As I laid in bed, I realized what sloth meant. My body felt calm, peaceful, serene. I felt dead. With no feeling in my muscles, my mind slipped into darkness. No dreams, only silence. I'm not sure how long I was asleep for, but I woke up to the feeling of my own breath, or lack of. Pain shot through my chest. It was like the devil himself was pulling me into hell. Hi, sweetheart. My wife's voice floated in like a hallucination. She spoke with such love I couldn't help but open my eyes. Adam. My mind was trying to prepare. It had been so long. I had no memory of what she looked like. Well, not completely. I could see the 18-year-old girl I married, the version of my wife who looked at me with an innocence and love. What did I want? Did I want her to be ugly, deformed, punished? No. What would that do? I guess I could save her a seat in hell by my side. I opened my eyes, scanning the room. A pregnant brunette was standing in the doorway, with her hands over her stomach. Marnie looked so different. Older? No. Her face never seemed to change. She still had the same youthful round cheeks like a porcelain doll. Did she look younger? No, especially not in her current state. Happier? Yes, that must be it. She looked happier. She wore a blue sweater over a long skirt. No, on a second glance it was a dress, the way it hugged the curves of her body. She's so beautiful. I started to laugh at first, just a chuckle and then a deep, long sound that didn't even feel human. So what the fuck do you want? Marnie pursed her lip. Even from where I was, I could see tears swelling in her eyes. Her hands were trembling as she crossed her arms. She took one step into the room, then paused and looked at the ground. The police notified the base of your location. Your command thought you were AWOL, but General Blake convinced the people in charge to give you a little more time, or at least to launch an investigation. I coughed slightly, forcing air into my chest, because otherwise your dependent pay would have been cut off. She nodded. That's why I knew you weren't AWOL. You would never let that happen. I swallowed hard, choosing my next word carefully. For Cece? I know. Marnie took a few steps forward, careful to not get too close. She cupped her hand over her mouth as tears flowed freely. I know. She was now sobbing uncontrollably. I came here to bring you home. I fucked everything up, and this is the only way to save my family. I want you to come home. She started to hyperventilate. I don't expect you to forgive me. I want you to come home because our daughter needs you. Where's home? I asked calmly. Mississippi, just across the state line, she said as she took a seat on the floor. just where you left us. You okay?" I wasn't worried. As a pregnant woman fainting in a hospital, she wasn't likely to die. A bright light appeared from the window, and suddenly Leo had his arms around my wife. "Hey, relax." He glanced at me with his emerald eyes. "You're here for a reason." That last line echoed over the hospital intercom. It was meant for both me and Marnie. Marnie took a breath as she struggled to stand. She took a step towards my bed, reaching for my hand. "You're going to be fully sedated for transport. Your body seems to have lost the ability to metabolize pain medication." I knew what that meant. I fucked up my liver, brain, and God knows what else. I'm not a child. You don't have to sugarcoat the dog shit. And I'm not a doctor. But from what they told me, you're going to be on disability for the rest of your life. She stroked her fingers over mine, caressing the scars and dried blood. "I'll see you in Mississippi." "Marnie, wait." I moved my fingers as much as I was able, gripping her just enough. "Please stay. I needed to know the truth. Where did I stand? Please." She moved my hand to her stomach. "I'm having a son." She softly kissed my fingertips. "Our son." A nurse knocked before entering. "Miss Surgeon." "I'll be right out," she replied, still looking in my eyes. "I'll see you soon, my love." She leaned and kissed my forehead. I closed my eyes, lost in the softness of her touch. I could feel her smile, her breath as she kissed me down my nose to my lips. I could taste the sweetness. I heard footsteps. Someone entered a room. Marnie held the kiss, while the second person added something to my PICC line via syringe. It was truly heaven. Marnie pulled away in a slow motion, her voice like syrup. "Sleep well." My mind drifted into darkness. I felt a hard, solid pain radiating from my chest to my back. Too nearly blind, but somehow I knew I could sit up. Okay, this was a good sign. I wasn't dead yet. "Leo, please tell me you're here." "I'm here." I could feel his hand, but his voice seemed to come from all directions. "Your heart just stopped, so what's the next word?" "Next word?" "Envy, wrath, lust, greed, and now sloth. What's next?" "Oh, you're not finished with sloth, not by a long shot." "Well, I can't actually force my heart to restart." "Your heart is the problem. You still love her." Leo reached out his hand to close my eyes. "From the darkness we are born, and in the darkness we reside." I'm 8 years old, naked, starving, dying. But it's okay. I'm okay. It hurts. Everything hurts. But it's okay. I'll be okay. "Mama?" I reach for the bones. "It's okay, Mama. Daddy left us here alone. Maybe he won't come back. Daddy says I'm a sinner, a mistake. That's why he hurts me. He'll drive out the demons so I can go to heaven. I want to go to heaven. I think Mama's already in heaven. She doesn't make a sound when Daddy hurts her. I'm a boy. I think my name is Adam. I'm not sure. I can remember what it was like to be happy, to eat, to drink, to see. I remember what it felt like to be able to sleep. I can't sleep. Why can I not sleep? I want to sleep. I want to go far away from here. I sucked in my breath, my stomach, my body. I'm folding up like a star. Was I becoming a star? Stars live in heaven. Apparently I managed to sleep when I had a seizure. I awoke in a room of light, unable to breathe or speak. A woman wearing a suit is by my side. holding my hand. "Hi, sweetheart," she says, her voice on the verge of tears. "I don't know if you remember me. I mouthed the word mama." She had my mother's hair, eyes, and smile. "No, Adam." Her voice broke as she choked back tears. "Your ma is gone, but so is your pa." Her sadness overtakes her. "At least I saved you." In the darkness, I could hear Leo tapping his fingers against the metal floor. "You can wake up whenever you want." This was the sloth. I could take the easy way out and die, just like I always wanted. But just remember, that little boy wanted to die because he had no one in his corner. And if I wake you up and Jamie gets your wings, I knew I had a reason to wake up. I just wanted him there. "Excuse you," he said, making his form glow against the darkness. "I have wings, and they are goddamn sexy." Shimmering neon yellow wings blossomed from his back like a flower, wrapping over his shoulders. "Will you hold me?" "Sure." I assumed he was going to hug me again. I just wanted to feel something other than pain. Leo reached his hands through my chest, as if he was a hologram. It felt cold but soothing. I sat up, wanting to be closer to him. All around me, I heard creaking, breaking, then a sharp, painful cold. "What are you doing?" "Look at your hands, Adam." I was a small child, younger than when my mother died. This was back when I had hope. "Leo." My voice was small and foreign. "I'll hold you in this form," he said, ruffling my hair. "This is your true soul." This was a joke, right? "It's not a joke," Leo said with sincerity. "If you die right now, this is the only part of you that will survive. Maybe because this is one piece of your spirit that's not broken. I mean, it's not the worst fate." He ticked my cheeks, causing an involuntary smile. "Sloth, the desire to stay where it's safe. It was a sin for a reason." Fuck this. My chest hurt as I forced to breathe. If I was going to dive back into the agony of my drug-damaged body, I was going on my own terms. I awoke with a breathing tube in my throat. Well, this is familiar. I forced my eyes open. Judging by the decor of the room, I was in Mississippi. In the on-base ICU, the feeling of air being forced into my lungs gave me the energy to want to throw myself out of bed. Even if I couldn't walk, I could crawl. I just needed to get freed from the wall. I reached for the nurse call button. I was just about to grasp it. Waking up from full anesthesia, my body was numb. I don't want to be numb. I don't want to be dead. The mantra escaped my lips before I realized I was not alone in the room. My wife was asleep under the light of the window, her body laying across two blue plastic chairs. Her long brown hair was all over her face, shimmering with a heavenly glow. As Marnie sat up, turning her gaze towards me with her big brown eyes, she looked ethereal. Did you say something?" With the breathing tube still in, I probably sounded like I was choking to death on my own vomit. I forced myself to nod. I needed her to know I was still there. Marnie returned the nod. "I'll be back, I promise." She ran outside and after a few moments came back, resting at my side. "The doctor has been paged. Everything is going to be okay." "Is it?" I squeezed her hand as my eyes darted around the room. Leo was standing in the corner, looking at a comically oversized pocket watch. "I'm impressed. The sloth level is just about defeated." Just about. The doctor came in with a few assistants. The procedure to remove my breathing tube was uneventful. I could breathe on my own. Just about. I had to be given oxygen mask to keep my levels at a reasonable percentage. The radiating pain was like feeling my body for the first time. My ribs felt like rocks, stabbing into my muscles of my chest. My dry throat was clenching as my limbs began to freeze in a state of spasm. Marnie gave my hand a delicate squeeze. "You can do this." As her grip released, her fingers traced the lines of my scarred hands. "Just hold my hand, I'm here." Her voice paused as her fingers caressed the places where I used to shoot up heroin, and I always will be. Just to feel her touch drove me to tears. Marnie continued to hold my hand. "Just focus on me." With her comfort, somehow my stats settled at a satisfactory level. "Miss a Virgin," the doctor said only to her. "The next few hours will be critical to just know how much of a recovery your husband will be capable of achieving." When the medical staff left us alone, Leo reappeared. He leaned against the wall like a model or a superhero staring me down. "I think you know what trial is next. It's what destroyed so many strong, noble individuals, including myself, so many years ago." I knew exactly what he meant. I had to make a choice between love and anger. I truly did love Marnie, but there was a massive elephant in the room. Why did she keep Matthew Remy's baby? Was it for religious reasons? We were Christians, but would I have wanted her to terminate? Then I remembered her words. "Our son." Could I do that? I mean, now I knew for certain that it was my body that failed. I was sterile. Marnie deserved the chance to have a child. But could I find the strength to stand by her? That was a real question. The light in the room flickered. With each blink, the burst of light left a trail in my vision. PRIDE. I was grateful to be alive, in a hospital, in my home state. This day was a blessing, but also long overdue. Of all the things that were broken, was it really my pride that would do me in? Yes, because I hated the idea of being a cuck. I turned to my beautiful, loving wife. I tried to focus on her eyes, her smile, everything I've been dreaming about and dreading. But all I could see was Matthew Remy. I had seen his photo during my Facebook stalking. The bastard looked like he could be her cousin. They had the same brown hair, brown eyes. The only difference was his skin color. This guy was dark. Cajun, maybe Italian. But one fact was undeniable. The baby growing inside of her would grow up to look like Matthew, haunting me for the rest of my days. I heard laughter from the corner of the room, a ghostly laughter of a certain teen flower child. "You're not CC's biological father, so what difference does it make?" Jamie's brown eyes stared at me like daggers into my soul. His eyes sparkled with a smug contemplation that made me want to punch him in his face. "Don't you dare talk about my daughter," I screamed in my mind, knowing full well that my wife couldn't see the self-righteous sorry of excuse for a guardian angel. Cece was adopted, not a product of my wife's betrayal. Big words coming from a guy who whored himself out for pills. "No, I'm sorry, pain medication, right?" Jamie made sure to use air quotes. "Fuck you." "Fuck me? Why? Because your wife is too busy fucking a real man? I bet Matthew Remy never starred in a porno with his therapist." You died in your teens. Don't even pretend you understand what I've been through. Jamie came closer. I died without a father. His face became stern, emotional. I died a slow, brutal death because my biological father got sick and my mother remarried an abusive drug addict. So don't you dare tell me what I am too young to understand. I'm sorry, I said out loud, not even caring who heard. Jamie blinked tears from his eyes. My point is, Cece doesn't look like you. She was born to love you. She was born thousands of miles away in a foreign country to some stranger. But you loved her from the moment you held her in your arms. Jamie threw up his hands in a pissed-off, defeated manner and left the way he came by walking through the wall. I have to return to my daughter's side. I closed my eyes and laid back in my bed. He was Cece's guardian angel, there to remind me that my teenage daughter was in a coma just a few doors down. That needed to be my focus, my goal to get out of this bed and to be the father she needed. But my rage would not subside. I tore my hand from my wife's grasp. Do you even want to stay with me? Or are you just waiting for the morally appropriate time to leave? Marnie nodded, gripping her pregnant stomach. It was clear she was trying to choose her response wisely. Matt asked me to marry him. He said he'd quit his job and take me to California. Fuck, I muttered, turning away. I knew it. If she left me, the military would make sure she was taken care of. I could die sick and alone while she reaped the benefits. I said no. Marnie wiped her tears on her sleeve before taking a seat by my side. I don't want him. I never wanted him. She placed her hand upon mine, lacing her fingers over my knuckles. I wanted to pull away again, maybe even hit her, but in my current state, the physical exertion would have caused me to puke all over myself. So in a way, I had no choice but to hear her out. When I said I was lonely, I wasn't talking out of my ass. I couldn't help but chuckle. Marnie's sense of humor was one of the first things that made me fall in love with her. I just wish you would have gotten a dog instead of, Oh, I got with a dog, all right, Marnie said with a nod. She bit her lip and made sexy eye contact in a way that was meant to coax a smile out of me. It did. You're a fucking bitch, I said with a genuine laugh. Marnie giggled through tears. Yeah, that was all me. I got lonely, got drunk. I left the bar with a hot guy who wanted to fuck me. She shook her head and blinked her eyes. I let him say nice things to me, spend his money on me. Looking up at the ceiling, she took a soft breath, as if she was in a prayer. I was a whore, and God wanted to make damn sure everyone knew. You didn't deserve this. The hurt, the humiliation, but I never said I was sorry. I wouldn't have believed you anyway. You kept his kid. I know. Marnie gave my hand a squeeze before softly releasing my fingers. Do you remember when we first met? Feels like a lifetime ago. In high school, you were the sexy baseball player with the amazing body. She traced her fingers around my wrist, up to my bicep. When I was 13, I started weight training. I wanted to gain confidence, gain control. By high school, the result was a body that got the attention of everyone from army recruiters to college scouts. Dozens of hot freshman girls who wanted me to be their fairy tale homecoming prince. It was a badge of honor to suck you off behind the bleachers. Marnie's voice no longer sounded like a woman of her age. This was the voice of a teenage girl, a punk rock southern goth princess whose sexy pierced lips smeared black lipstick all over my cock. Funny, and I know I wasn't the only one. No, ma'am, you were not. I took sex from anyone who offered. Cheerleaders, teachers, and one brilliant punk girl with a face full of piercings and a tongue that felt so good. Marnie Lynn Brewer was like no other girl. Sweet, smart, and tough. She quickly became my best friend. All the popular girls said you looked like a soldier, the all-American hero, the kind of a boy who would have taken care of a woman. Her southern accent slipped in. But from the moment I looked in your sky blue eyes, I saw something more. You needed a friend, a partner, someone just as fucked up as you. You and me against the world? Maybe. Even if I can't forgive you, I will always be your friend. Marnie was the first person I ever told about my past. At first, she received the information with a morbid curiosity. The case was well known. My grandmother kept the information classified. As I grew up, the story became an urban legend, the tale of a sadistic psychopath who worked as a pastor by day, and by night he kept his family in a torture chamber. That took 3 years for police to locate. When Marnie was only 15, she asked to see the scars on my back. She told me stories she heard. Some were actually worse than reality. I had worked through my pain, covering my childhood trauma with muscle, but I told her everything. She knew I had been beaten, burned, starved, and even raped. Marnie learned it all, and yet she still married me. I guess I owed her a little faith. I have something I need to tell you. Go ahead. I'll listen as long as you need me to. I gave Marnie an abridged version of my months of debauchery, from my drug use to my sexual encounters with men. I would like to say I was a victim, but that wasn't completely true. I was an addict. Maybe I was lonely too. I'm sorry. Marnie kissed my cheek. I could feel the fresh tears from her eyes. It's no worse than what your dad did to you. Her words brought about a wave of nausea. It made no sense why I craved what I did. By all logic, I should hate to be touched. I should fear it. I don't know what I am. You're Adam, my husband. You're my partner. And my best friend. If you can swallow your pride, I can too. If you think you're bisexual, that's fine. I will stand by you. Not because I have to. Marnie placed her hand upon mine in a way that allowed our wedding rings to touch. Because I want to. There was a moment of silence, a mourning for our last few years of our relationship. Marnie, yes? Could you get me in a wheelchair? I knew I couldn't walk. My legs were still in agony as I shifted my weight. I could feel a partial brace on my right leg and bandages on my left. Of course, as she attempted to turn towards the door, I grabbed her hand with more strength than I thought was possible. There was a moment as we locked eyes. I love you, Marnie. My wife smiled through tears. I love you too. Marnie left and returned, accompanied by a male nurse who connected my IV and oxygen to respective portal units. It was a struggle to get out of bed. My body practically collapsing from the pain. The nurse got me into the chair, allowing me a moment of rest. Maybe this isn't a good idea. I know he went into cardiac arrest on the way over. He just needs a moment, Marnie replied calmly. Our daughter is only a few doors down. I guess it couldn't hurt. Lead the way. The nurse pushed my wheelchair down the hallway, walking behind Marnie. My wife opened the door, holding it for the nurse. Cece, sweetie, she said out loud. Your father is here. I wasn't prepared for what I would see. My daughter was comatose, incubated with a breathing tube. Her eyes were closed, and her arms hung limp by her side. She looked dead. She has a fever from a blood infection, Marnie explained, her voice trembling. The doctors can't explain it. Her body just stopped fighting. I cupped my hand over my mouth as I sobbed into my oxygen mask. With all the strength I could muster, I lifted my arm, reaching out for her hand. I knew my oxygen was dropping as I struggled to breathe, but in the moment, all that mattered was touching my daughter's hand. "Your husband is hyperventilating," said the nurse, already leaning in to grab me. "We need to get him back to the room." The moment I heard those words, my mind snapped. I tore off the oxygen mask and threw my body out of the wheelchair. I pulled myself to my daughter's side. The bed was low enough for me to rest my head near her lap, face down, my tears soaking the mattress. I said a soft prayer. "Please, I made it here. I did everything you asked. Please, Leo, save my daughter. You have one trial remaining. Will you take on her pain?" The voice was a soft, ghostly breeze. I couldn't tell if it was Leo or Jamie, but I didn't care. "Yes, I'll do anything. Please just let her wake up." I know I blacked out for a moment. I could have sworn I felt my daughter Cece's hand on my shoulder. Over the next few days, I became sicker than ever thought possible. My energy was so low I could no longer function on my own. I woke up in a cold sweat with an unbearable throbbing in my chest. The pain was so severe, I found myself begging for death. After a few dozen scans and tests, it was determined that my left leg had to go. The most recent injury wasn't healing, and the infection was causing a fever. There was some debate as to whether surgery was even a valuable option. My heart was too weak. I had only a 20% chance of survival, and that number was dropping lower and lower with every passing hour. As my wife, Marnie, had medical power of attorney, with my blessing, she signed off on the surgery. Either I would die, or I wouldn't. The day of my surgery, my fever was so high, I could no longer distinguish reality. The world around me was a blur, and my body was so cold, I could feel every painful movement of my heart. As I went under full anesthesia, I was unsure if I could even wake up, but I had to. I hadn't been able to visit Cece since my initial arrival. I thought that hung heavy on my mind. "Just relax, sir. Count down from 10, said one voice. "I don't think he can even hear you," said another. All the sounds blended together into a mass of static. 10, 9, 8. In the darkness, I could finally sit up. I got off the table, stepping away from my body. "Leo, please tell me it's over." Leo was sitting in a corner. "I've been through some shit, but you, man, you have seriously been cursed." I was naked, wrapped in a blue hospital blanket, with nothing else to do. I took a seat by his side. "What were you?" Leo sighed. "Before I was an angel, I was fucked up just like you. I think that's why I was assigned to you. So I can't take the easy way out. Adam Connor has never taken the easy way out." Adam Connor. The words cut me to my core. That was my father's name, a name that was erased to history. My strength did not belong to him. My achievements did not belong to him. But above all else, my body and soul did not belong to him. Virgin was my mother's name, my grandmother's name, my daughter's name. Tell me straight, friend to friend, how difficult is this next part going to be? You have cancer growing within the aortic walls of your heart. You're probably going to undergo radiation therapy. Gee, is that all? I couldn't help but laugh out loud. So what you're saying is my heart is going to race my liver and the winner gets to drag my ass to hell. We'll see. You just have one more trial. Gluttony? Yep. Leo nodded with a foreboding sense of dread. The definition is gluttony is excessive indulgence. I don't understand. Leo ran his fingers through his hair, moving it out of his face. I almost wish he didn't. The expression in his eyes was one of pure dread. I can't explain it into words. It's just... Leo pursed his lips. When someone is fighting gluttony, it rarely ever feels like it. What? You don't think gluttony means that you have a spread of stuff? Food, opportunity, love, anything you could ever want, and all you have to do is show a little restraint. But that's not it. It's not? I'm not sure what's about to happen, but I have a feeling you're going to be given so little. The whole process is going to feel like a punishment. You'll want to hold on to everything you can, but in order to pass this test, you have to be able to let go. My mind raced with ideas of what that could mean. I don't know if I can do this. I stood up, approaching the operating table. My physical body was calm, even as my leg was being amputated. Just how much was I going to lose? I touched my body, fully prepared to re-enter, when I started to flatline. What the fuck? Am I meant to go back or not? I felt a hand touch my back, tingly and warm. Leo pressed his lips to my ear. I promise I'll make it worth all the pain. I took a step back away from my body, and as I did, the room filled with light. I was blind, unable to even see my own form, but I could feel everything. Ever wonder how angels make love? The voice was Leo. He was standing directly behind me. I could feel his hands on my shoulders, working their way down my chest. I was no longer wrapped in a blanket. He kissed my neck, sending a shiver down my spine. I know you want me. I could feel the breath catching in my chest. I think I love you. Leo's energy rippled down my body like liquid. I love you too, Adam. He kissed my lips, down my neck to my chest. Like I said, we're more alike than you know. I could feel the warmth of his touch on my stomach, my hips, my thighs. Raw, beautiful, passionate sensations were holding me in a loving embrace. Leo, in this state, I can be whatever you want me to be, whatever you need. I needed to be touched, to be loved, to know that there was no reason to feel any sense of self-doubt. I felt lips on my cock, an orgasm building in my core. I can feel my body reclining comfortably on a bed. I blinked my eyes and I was 19 again, clean shaven, the day of basic training graduation, in a roadside motel somewhere in Texas. Do you really have to go? Asked a female voice. Marnie? She turned to me. In bed by my side, she was naked except for a thin hotel sheet. We could run away together. Maybe try for Mexico or Canada. You mean like a draft dodger? Exactly, she said. Her eyes lit up with a rebellious energy. People haven't been fleeing to Canada since the Vietnam War, right? I couldn't help but laugh. We don't know anyone in Canada. Exactly, Marnie giggled, brushing a lock of hair from her face. We could just disappear, just you and me. She lifted her hand, letting her ring sparkle in the light. I had proposed to her during graduation, wearing the uniform that was now on the floor along with her sundress and heels. I put my arms around Marnie, holding her close. No, babe, I need to provide for you. Save some money, maybe go to college. I'll make a life for you, for us. Marnie sighed. I love you, Adam, more than anything in this world. She softly kissed my chest. But I fucking hate it when you talk like a grown-up. I awoke in the ICU, groggy, with fresh bandages where my lower leg once was. My vision was still fuzzy, but I no longer felt like I was dying of fever. Someone was holding my hand. This person has small, delicate fingers that struggle to grip. Hi, Dad. Cece?